Welcome, welcome, welcome. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Habs After Dark. My name is Devin. I'm sorry, I just wanted to do something before we got started here, and I didn't have it ready. What is going on here? This is what I wanted. I wanted this, and I wanted to do a little bit of this. You'll get over it, Jake. Okay. There it is, guys. Bleu, blanc, rouge. Reminds me of the old days at the old Forum. Montreal Canadiens, overtime win, 5-4 win over the New York Rangers. They bounced back after a tough loss last night to the Toronto Maple Leafs. They do come back. I don't think it was their best game ever, but they did come back. They did get a win against a good team, and there's nothing really to complain about. Claude Richard must have been on very early saying, I believe they will rebound. He wasn't exactly right, but he was right. That's more like it, says Billy D. Andre Vezina, yes, sir. Nice goal from Line, overtime. Yes, Zach. Very nice way to end the game. How was the game? Had the Bills game on tonight. Huge win for Buffalo. I did not watch. I was watching the Canadiens. It was a good game, Daniel. It was back and forth. The Canadiens played relatively well. I think they're a little bit sloppy. I think there's things that they need to work on. But for the most part, I think we should all be happy with another win. Always nice to see Matt Rempe get smacked. Yes, Matt Rempe is not a good fighter. As Zachary Candido says, Zachary will tell you that I've been saying that for a very long time. Matt Rempe is not an NHL caliber hockey player. He's not an NHL caliber fighter. He's just not. I mean, he loses. 80% of NHL fights end up in a draw, right? Two guys end up fighting and nobody really lands any punches. I mean, Matt Rempe has visibly lost probably 75% of the fights he's been in the NHL. He's not a good fighter. So he's not good at any part of that game. But anyways, guys, before we get going with the show, like I said, it's Habs After Dark. My name is Devin. Happy Sunday night. It's been a really busy week here. For me, we did 4 Montreal Canadiens games. I did 2 shows with Coach, 3 shows actually with Coach this week. So I've been on the air 7 times this week. So it's been a long week for me, and I'll be glad to get it done with. But again, I'm glad that we can sit here and talk about a win on a Sunday night. If you are not yet subscribed, please do so. Please hit that subscribe button. It's just right here below the screen. You can also hit the notification bell. If you hit the notification bell, YouTube will tell you when I'm going live, when our shows are being aired, and you can join us if you're so inclined. You can also hit a thumbs up. I see we've already got a thumbs down. I love it. Thank you very much for the feedback, guys. But let's see if we can get 30 tonight. Last night was a little bit slow with the thumbs up. We got 14 people in the show right now. But whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on a replay, I know not everybody can watch the show live because it's usually late at night, and some people have to work in the morning, and I understand that. But if you are watching it on a replay after the fact, then we would certainly ask you to subscribe if you enjoy the content. The main purpose here, there's 2 main purposes here. One, I really like doing this. It's fun talking to you guys after the games. I do enjoy it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't. But also, it's to give you guys a place where you can talk about the game, where you can talk about the Montreal Canadiens, somewhere where you can have, civil, intelligent conversations about the game. I appreciate that sometimes I maybe lose my temper a little bit, but for the most part, I think we try to keep it pretty above board, and it's a lot better than talking about the game on Twitter or on TikTok or some of the more toxic social media outlets. So that's what I'm trying to give you guys. And the only way I can really give that to you guys is if we get more subscribers. So the more the merrier. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button, and we would love to have you, and we'd love to grow this community. So, Andres, the match, yes, a very entertaining game, Andre. Yes, sir. Rempe might be the worst player in the league. Yeah, I think it's probably... there's probably a good competition there between him and Ryan Reeves. I think would be the 2, I don't know the worst players, but the least that give the least contribution to their team. I put out a post on Blue Sky at the end of the game, How many minutes of ice time are Ryan Reeves and Matt Rempe getting in the last 5 minutes of a tie game? Right? How often are those two guys getting on the ice in the last 5 minutes of a tie game? We had a big discussion here last night about the relative contributions of Ryan Reeves and Arbor Jacki. Arbor Jacki was on the ice tonight in the last 5 minutes of the game in a tie game against the New York Rangers. Ryan Reeves is not going to get that ice time, right? He's just not. Neither is Matt Rempe, and they don't deserve that ice time. Arbor Jacki has earned that ice time, and he plays that ice time, and he's very good about it. So, Andre, people at the game tonight, it was worth the ticket. Yes, very much so. Would have been a fun environment, fun atmosphere. Minor hockey night at the Bell Center as well. So good for the kids to see that. The next generation of Montreal Canadiens fans. What a game. How's it going? It's going well. Blackwater, thank you. Welcome back. Clovey, good bounce back after yesterday. Absolutely. Rempe plays 5 minutes. Yeah, I don't understand what they're doing. I don't understand what the Rangers are doing with Matt Rempe. I don't know what they feel like he contributes to their team. I've said this multiple times. I'm pretty confident in this opinion. Like, he just does not contribute anything to that team. He's a detriment. Like, he gets penalized. He causes them. Tonight he caused them a power play. He just doesn't contribute anything to that team. And that team has young players that they could have in that spot. Right? They have good young, impactful players that could be in his spot, but for whatever reason, they think he needs to be in that lineup, and I don't quite understand why. And like you said, it'd be one thing if he was actually tough and actually want to fight now and then, and people were actually intimidated by him, but nobody's intimidated by him, right? Like, Lane Hutson was winning battles on the boards with him. Like, they're going in together, along the boards with the pocket, and Lane Hutson's coming out the other side. So there's no real benefit to having him on the ice for your team. So I don't know why they do that. Anytime Laine says he needs a week off for the flu recovery, I say take your time. Okay, yeah, I see that. I knew Hutson was well ahead of other rookie defensemen, but I didn't realize he was 30 points ahead of them until I saw the stat at the end of the game. And fifth among all defensemen, incredible. Yeah, he's a pretty special player, Billy D, and other fan bases will say that we're just sort of blowing smoke up his ass a little bit, but the kid can play hockey. He's doing things that nobody's really ever done at his age, or very few have done, I should say. That it's been done before, but not in a really long time. His point production is impressive. His ability to adapt to the NHL game and the size of the players in the NHL defensively has been impressive. And again, last night was a bit of an exception. I think the Toronto and Maple Leaf fans will jump all over that and say, "Oh, he's not a good defensive defenseman." But again, that was an anomaly. And prior to that game, he had not had a single game where his plus minus was in the negative since December 21st. And tonight, he finished with let's check it out. Let's check it out. Tonight, he finished with an assist. He was a -1 again tonight, so he did have a minus tonight. So that's 2 games in a row with a negative plus minus. But again, certainly an improvement on the -5 or the -5 that he had last night. Great game, yes, Asim. It was a great game. It was fun to watch. Who can they have instead of him? I don't know off the top of my head. If you want me to take a second, I can look it up. You'd only have to go to Puckpedia for a moment to see what their depth chart looks like. So if we go to the Rangers depth chart, in the minors, they have so Rempe is playing right wing on the 4th line. So they've got, I believe it's Bo Grew is down in the minors as a forward. Berard is a good young forward. Othman is down in the minors as a forward playing down there. They don't have a great, huge farm system, but there's some players down in the minors that could be up in the NHL. And then Sikora is a decent player. So there's a few guys down in the minors who could be playing ahead of him. According to Chris Nyland, he said because Jack Guy didn't fight, he fueled the fire for the Leafs. Makes sense. Nyland would have fought for sure. Yeah, it's a different world than the one Nyland lives in, or lived in, or played in. I mean, if Chris Nyland thinks that he should have fought Ryan Reeves last night when the Canadiens were up 3-0 at the end of the third period, Chris Nyland, I mean, to be honest with you, Chris Nyland's entertaining. I loved him as a hockey player. He's fantastic. But as far as a hockey analyst goes, he's not that bright. He kind of gives hockey analysts he kind of gives hockey analysis the way he played hockey, right? He kind of leads with his face and is pretty emotional about it. But there's no, I mean, the suggestion that him not fighting last night at that 3-0 was the reason why Toronto came back is it's completely absurd. It's just a ridiculous comment. But anyways, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. I mean, if you think that Arbor Jacki should have fought when his team was on a roll, frankly, if he had fought, I think that Marty St. Louis probably would have told him off in the dressing room at the end of the first period. So Jacki destroyed Rempe, and I loved it. Yes, it was a good game, says Swazi. Thank you, it's Swazi. Welcome. I think you're new here. Thank you for coming by. Kreider played on the fourth line over Rempe. Well, they were double shifting guys, right, Asim? Eventually Rempe kind of, he doesn't factor into the game after a certain point. That was a pretty one-sided fight, Swazi. It was a pretty one-sided fight. I wouldn't say he knocked him out or hurt him badly, but it was a very one-sided fight. Why are fans still booing Kreider? Price had a better year after the injury. I don't know about that, Adam Troy. I mean, that is the injury that has essentially ended Carey Price's career. He did come back and play after it, but it's the same injury that now has him, essentially retired. He'd probably still be playing if it wasn't for that play. I don't know that I would say that he almost knocked him out. Blackwater Canyon. Thoughts on the 7 unanswered goals last night? Well, we talked about it last night, Cheese Wizard. It was just a situation of a young, immature team playing a much more mature team. The Canadiens faced a goaltender who played really, really well last night, and they didn't really seem to have the ability to stop the bleeding once the bleeding started. He landed a number of punches at Swazi, and then wrestled him to the ground. Again, last night should have been a blowout for the Habs, 3-0 and multiple post chances. Again, I thought they played a good game last night. I think that if they, they play that way most of the time, I think that they will win games more than they will lose. It's kind of what I want to talk about in my, in my takeaways from today's game. Eventually you can't continue to blame, say that, well, we played better than them, but we still lost. Eventually you need to win those games, right? You need to find ways to win if you're going to be a contending hockey team. So the last 3 losses, or the last, the Toronto game, the Chicago game, and then the first game against Dallas, right? Those are essentially their last 3 losses. All 3 of those games, you could make the argument that they, quote unquote, should have won the game, right? They outshot Chicago badly, but couldn't manage to get the win. They outplayed Dallas in the first game against Dallas, and then lost in overtime. So I say they outplayed them, but they certainly, were very much in the game and probably played well enough to win in that game. Last night against Toronto, we just heard it. Like, they hit a lot of posts. They didn't capitalize on their opportunities. They weren't able to keep the momentum moving when they were up 3-0. So eventually, you can't continue to use that excuse, right? You can't continue to use that excuse that, we didn't have any luck, or the puck wasn't going in for us tonight. Eventually, a mature team will learn how to capitalize when it gets its chances, right? To be efficient with its scoring chances. That's what good, mature, contending hockey teams do. And right now, that is sort of one of the last pieces of the puzzle for the Montreal Canadiens right now is, you've got to win all different kinds of games. You have to win games where, the other team is better than you and you win anyway. You have to win games where, you're way better than the other team. And you have to win games where, the other team might, be trying to steal one from you. Like last year, we saw it a lot, right? There were a few games, not a lot, but a few games where the Canadiens would go somewhere and they'd play against the other team, and the other team would sort of, outshoot them by 10 or 12 shots and outplay them for the entire game. But Sam Montembeault would have a really, really great game and stand on his head a little bit. And the Canadiens would sneak away with like a 3-2 win or something like that. The Canadiens have to be able to win those types of games, and you can't use that excuse of we didn't capitalize on our chances. You don't win games by getting more chances than the other team, right? You win by getting more goals. And the Canadiens, right now, one of their remaining soft points is still the ability to be efficient, to be more efficient with their scoring chances. So that's kind of my big takeaway from tonight. The other one, of course, would be the ability to rebound over it after a disappointing game, right? That's another winning habit. It's another habit that good hockey teams have. You have a bad game, not even a bad game necessarily, but like a disappointing game, one that leaves a bad taste in your mouth, and you're able to come back the next night and to perform and not to fall apart from it. That's something that would have taken out this team earlier in the season. It's something that they would have struggled with, right? They didn't deal very well with adversity early on in the season. Like things went badly, they would tend to snowball and get out of control a little bit. So that's kind of what was a good sign tonight. They came out, they played really well in the first. There were the Arbor Jackeye turnover was a bit of a throwback to the October-November version of this team, but otherwise I thought they played a decent game. I think they do have to. I do think they have to tighten up their defensive game a little bit, right? What did I read somewhere that in the 10 games before Toronto and the 10 games before yesterday's game, they gave up 20 goals in 10 games. And then, between last night and tonight, they gave up 11, right, in 2 games. So I think they do have to tighten up their defense a little bit. And to, they're still on track. Their momentum, I think, is still moving in the right direction. But if they're going to keep it going in that direction, I think they need to tighten up their defense a little bit more than they did tonight and last night. So I'll get back to the comments. Dylan says, I missed the game because I had soccer. Wanted to know how Beck did. Beck played all right. He wasn't really super noticeable. I honestly thought it was a bit of a mistake to have him in the lineup tonight, if I'm being honest. He played, I think, 7 or 8 minutes all told. I'll tell you in a second. He played a total of 8 minutes and 13 seconds. He had 11 shifts. He had 1 hit. He had a giveaway and no shots on goal, no points, obviously. But he was okay. He didn't stand out negatively, that's for sure. But again, like I said, I felt like Owen Beck being in the lineup tonight was probably a bit of a mistake by the Canadiens. I wouldn't have had him in there. I would have had Pizzetta back in the lineup. I don't think you were going to get a whole lot more out of Owen Beck than you did out of Pizzetta. And, Owen Beck played on Wednesday night, he played on Friday night, and he played on Saturday night. And now they were asking him to play essentially his first game in the NHL. I know he played a prior game when he was still in junior a couple of years ago, but, essentially this would have been his, first game, certainly his first game at the Bell Center. To ask a kid to play, his 4th game in 5 nights, was a bit of a risky move. It didn't end up hurting them, but it's not something I thought really made a lot of sense, to be quite honest with you. Once we got ahead, Revo didn't play much. They didn't need him. So you're okay? You're a Leafs fan, Swazi? Okay. They didn't need him. I don't know if. Anyways, whatever. Chris Nyland understands the game. Not really. No, he doesn't, Cheese Wizard. He understands the game from the 80s, but he doesn't understand the game from today, in any real special way. He doesn't understand. I mean, he understands the game, but not in the way that you would expect from an expert. He doesn't understand the game. Not in my opinion, anyway. The refereeing was bad. Again, the refereeing is always bad. Just inconsistent. It's just very inconsistent, right? You're going to call, you call Josh Anderson for, a relatively soft cross-check in front of the net. Again, I don't have a problem. It's a cross-check. You call it. But then, on that very same power play, the Rangers player just bowls over the Canadiens defenseman. I think it was Matheson in front of the net, and they just ignore it like it never happened. And then they score a goal. So, He won the Hart after the injury. No, I'm not sure about that. But again, that's not the point, Adam. It's the same injury. He did come back. Whether he won the Hart or not in that season, I'm not completely sure. But again, if you're asking me why the Canadiens fans are booing Chris Kreider, I'm telling you why they're booing Chris Kreider. You can disagree with them booing Chris Kreider all you want. I have no problem with that. But if you're asking me why they do it, that's the reason why. The reason why is that Chris Kreider caused the injury that forced Carey Price to retire from hockey before he normally would have had to. So that's you asked the question, I gave you the answer. If you got an issue with that, take it up with the fans. I wasn't at the Bell Center tonight booing Chris Kreider. What's up, Enter Tap? What's going on? I'm still sweating. A great comeback tonight, character building game, especially after yesterday. Yeah, it was a tiresome game. It was a difficult game to watch. It was up and down, and your heart in your throat a little bit from time to time, and it was a fun one to watch, but it was a difficult one. RDP, welcome. What's going on, pal? Good to see you. I've met Chris Nyland in person as well, RDP. Nice guy, and like I said, I find him entertaining and I enjoy him. But when if you're listening to him for high level hockey analysis, you're looking in the wrong place, right? Like you're looking in the wrong place for high level hockey analysis if you're listening for that. You're listening for that from Chris Nyland. Billy D, Quick played really well. Yeah, Quick did play well. Yeah, he had a good game. He absolutely played well. The refs were horrific. Enter Tap. I mean, the refs are always going to be horrific. If the refs are not noticeable in a game, you should be happy, because the norm is for them to be bad. They don't understand how to officiate a sports event. They just don't. Like they think that game management means that So here's the example. Right, they give the extra 2 minutes to Matt Rempe because he, sort of started the fight with Arbor Jackeye. So they give him an extra 2, which if you believe that he deserves that extra 2 because of what he did, you give it to him, right? You don't give it to him and then look for a way to even things up because you feel bad because you gave him the extra 2, right? You gave him the extra 2 because you felt like he deserved the extra 2 minutes. So this idea that 5 minutes later they give the Canadiens an extra 2 minutes on another scrum in front of the net, essentially to even things up, because what are you doing? I don't understand this idea that game management means that you have to make sure that both teams get the same number of penalties, and because the Canadiens scored on the power play. I thought they scored on that power play. Why did it say 0 for 3? On the power play tonight for the Canadiens? Didn't they score on that Matt Rempe power play? I thought they did. I thought that the first... Anyways, it just... Yeah, wasn't the Christian Dvorak goal a power play goal? NHL.com says the Canadiens are 0 for 3 on the power play, but I thought Dvorak's goal was on the power play. Maybe the power play had just ended. Anyway, somebody will tell me in the comments. So, the idea that because the Canadiens, whether they scored on the power play or shortly after it, because they, if you don't believe that that's a real penalty to Rempe, don't give it to him. But don't give him a penalty and then spend the next, 15 minutes of the game trying to find an excuse to give the Canadiens a penalty so you can even things up. That's not game management. They just don't. They're not properly trained on how. It was funny because I watched those kids, at the beginning of the game. I don't know if you guys watched any of the pregame ceremony, but they brought out a bunch of kids because it was minor hockey day, and they brought kids out to stand alongside the players, but they also brought kids out to stand next to the referees. And all I could think about was seeing those poor kids and say, please don't learn how to referee from these referees. You need to learn somewhere else. These referees will not teach you how to be good referees. So. Anyways, I'm not going to rant for too long about the referees, but you're absolutely right, Intertap. Actually, he played his 4th game in 5 nights, Intertap. It was his 4th game in 5 nights. He also played on Wednesday, I believe. If you look it up, I think that's the case. Savard was yelling at the ref because Matheson got cross-checked in the back, but no penalty should... Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was just talking about, Zach. Right? It wasn't a cross-check. It was more of a body check in the back. Matheson was standing in front of his own net, and the Rangers player came from behind and just put his shoulder into his back and knocked him flying, knocked him out of the play, and then the Rangers scored a goal. And the referee didn't even budge, didn't even flinch. I just don't see the use for Beck to call up as a winger. Would have made sense for a center spot, but I would have called up Kandata. The player that's injured is a winger, Dylan. Emil Heineman's a winger. I think you could have brought Kandata up to play on the wing. They did not need another centerman. The only reason I wouldn't have called up Beck is because they played 3 games this week already, and I don't think that it was a good spot to put him in. Right? We always talk about putting young players in an opportunity or in a position where they can succeed. Right? Putting a young kid on the ice for essentially his first game in the NHL when he's already played back-to-back games with bus travel in between is not putting that kid in the right position to succeed. It didn't work. It didn't matter. It didn't hurt. It didn't bother anybody. It didn't hurt anybody. But again, I have no problem with them bringing up players from Laval. I think that's probably if Heineman is out for any significant amount of time going here forward, I don't mind them bringing guys back up and down and sending them back to Laval as long as they're not missing any games down in Laval. But tonight just didn't make sense to me. It just didn't make sense to me. And realistically, you got what? 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes more out of Owen Beck than you did would have gotten out of Michael Pezzetta. So Montreal did not fold. Every time Rangers scored, there was a response. Yeah, I guess. I guess if you want to look at that on the pessimistic side of things, it was kind of like every time Montreal scored, they allowed the Rangers to score as well. But again, all that matters is who scores the last one, and that kind of worked out in our top. One of the negatives of tonight's game I found was there was a bit of a letdown every time the Canadiens scored a goal. But you're right, they didn't fold. Earlier in the season they would have not quit. They would have had a letdown. And they would have allowed goal. They were allowing goals in bunches at the beginning of the year, and they didn't do that tonight. Did we all see the difference with the goaltending tonight? Those 2 huge saves in OT gave us the win. That's what you need in a good goalie. Well, I do want to comment about that, Blackwater Canyon. It's a good comment, and I did notice it, and I did pay attention to it. And I think that this talk about Dobesh becoming the number 1 goaltender is absolutely absurd. If you're thinking that Jakub Dobesh should be the number 1 goalie after he's played just 4 games in the NHL, 5 now, I think you're crazy. And what you want from your goaltenders is you want exactly what Dobesh gave you tonight, right? You want a goalie who makes the saves that you need at the time that you need them, right? He didn't have a great game tonight. He allowed 2 goals on 5 shots or something in the first period. He wasn't that great, but he made the saves he needed to make when he needed to make them. And then in the overtime, as you point out, Blackwater Canyon, he stood up and made really big saves when they desperately needed to have them. And that's what he's done all along. And that's what Montembeaux's been doing. And you can say that Montembeaux's, let in more goals than Dobesh in the last little while, and he's, whatever. But Montembeaux has made the saves that the Canadiens needed when they needed it. And that's what you want from your goaltender. Yeah, you'd love to have, Igor Shesterkin, or you'd love to have, Ottinger, or you'd love to have Hellebuck. But not every team is going to have that guy, right? You're not going to have the guy who, gives you like a .925 save percentage and does it night in and night out. What you do want is a guy who will make the saves that count when you need them. And that's what Sam Montembeaux has always done. It's what he's continued to do. And just because Jakub Dobesh has come up and had 4, really, really strong games isn't a sign that there's a goalie controversy or that one goalie should be favored in front of the other. What are you going to, I don't get this. The people who think that Dobesh should be the number 1. So what, you're going to start giving him 3 out of every 4 starts? Do you not see there's a risk in that? This kid's a young goalie. You're going to let him, this is still part of his development. Throwing him into the fire is not a recipe for success. And why would you mess with the success that the team is having right now, right? Montembeaux's the number 1. They're winning games. Jakub Dobesh is the backup. They're winning games. What's the intention behind trying to mess with that? Like, why would you mess with that? Like, what's the intent? Like, again, to me, it's fans who put their own emotions ahead of what's best for the team, right? Making Dobesh the number one goalie is not the best thing for the Montreal Canadiens. There's no way anybody with a sound mind could argue that. And so I always wonder. Yeah, I get it. Dobesh plays great, and when you see him play great, your knee jerk reaction is to say that guy should be the number one. I get it. But after 4 games, if you think that Jakub Dobesh becoming the number one goalie on this team is the best thing for the Montreal Canadiens, then I don't think you have the best interest of the Canadiens in mind. So, anyways, that's just my thoughts. And again, that's not aimed at you, Blackwater Canyon. That's aimed at a number of people who have suggested to me, Matt Drake in particular in his podcast. Matt Drake does the Eyes on the Prize podcast. So he does what is it called? The Bottom Six, whatever. So after every game, he does a 20-minute podcast and he sort of reviews the game. And, he was talking in his podcast after last night's game about the fact that, he believes there may be a goalie controversy in Montreal. And I think that's absurd. Like, suggesting that you've got a goalie controversy involving a goalie who's played 4 NHL games in his entire life, I think is crazy. Beck was used in very few time. Left on the clock indicates Marty St. Louis has confidence to put him in the ice. Big difference. Yes, absolutely. There is a huge difference between him and Bezzetta Patrick, and I'm not suggesting there isn't. What I'm suggesting is the timing of the call-up didn't make sense, right? Calling him up to only play another extra 2 minutes over what you would have gotten out of Pezzetta when he's played, this was his 3rd game in 3 nights, his 4th game in 5 nights, didn't make sense to me, right? So what I'm saying is that, while things didn't go badly with Beck tonight, they could have, right? You put him in a tough situation, right? When you're tired like that, you're prone to injury. You're prone to playing badly, which might hurt your confidence. It might, affect, your development. It could, any number of things could happen. Again, I'm not saying it was a highly likely thing to happen, but it was a possible thing to happen. And I just thought that it might have made more sense to give Pezzetta one more game. And then, if you want to bring Beck up to play on Tuesday against the Lightning, I think they play on Tuesday, then that would have made a lot more sense to me. I didn't understand the rationale behind bringing a kid up to play what essentially was his first game in the NHL. When under those circumstances, right? 4 games in 5 days with all kinds of bus ride in between. So that's just my thoughts. You may disagree with me. Good on Savard for sticking up for Matheson. Absolutely, Savard is a consummate teammate. He's a guy that any team in the league would love to have on their team. What's up, Jeevan? Any team in the league would love to have a guy like David Savard. Like, is his game falling off a little bit? Yeah, he's getting older. He's getting slower. He's going to play less ice time, and he's not going to do as much. Here's the fight with Rempe, and Rempe landed a few shots there before Jack Guy even got his gloves off, and then Jack Guy just started filling him in a little bit. But yeah, Savard's a great teammate. On off the ice, everybody loves him. It is what it is. If you guys are over there on TikTok, guys, we're doing a live show called Habs After Dark. The instructions are on the screen behind me. All you got to do is go to Recliner Sports 4 on YouTube, and you can join in on the conversation. If you've got questions, if you've got comments, if you want to talk about the game, we would love to have you. You're more than welcome. We're inviting you over here. It's Sunday night. Everything goes here. We're just gonna go through the comments. I will eventually get to the scorecard, but we'll see. They explained that they don't bring referees based on refereeing experience. They scout former Q and AHL players that are refs at lower level and bring them up. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, typically the NHL referees will come up from the Quebec League or the other CHL leagues, and then up through the AHL. I think you are seeing a lot more former players referee, which obviously is probably a good thing in some ways. But what I have issues with is just the lack of training and the lack of teaching they receive about managing a game. I refereed rugby for a long time, and I'm not going to suggest that I was ever at any level, even close to being refereeing at a professional level. But refereeing and rugby, the way they teach you and the way they instruct you on the game and how to to manage the game and how to, the different techniques and the different skills that you can use to manage a game that they offer, even at the level of rugby that I was reffing. I reffed sort of up to and including, I reffed one international rugby game, and I wasn't the ref on the field. I was a sideline ref, so I was kind of up to that level. The skills and the processes and the things that they taught us on how to manage a game, whether it's like communication, whether it's talking to the players, being preemptive in talking to the players and coaches before a game, during a game, telling them what you expect from them beforehand, what you're going to be calling, what you're not going to be calling, what you're going to be focused on, those kinds of things. Those kinds of things allow you to manage a game. You don't manage a game by making sure that you call as many penalties against one team as you call against the other so that one team doesn't get an advantage. That's not game management, right? Game management is, talking to the captains before the game and saying, this is how I see the game tonight. And the last time you guys played, there was a little bit of this that went on, and I'm going to have a really close eye on interference calls, and we're being really strict on hooking. If we see any type of hooking whatsoever, we're going to call that, and so just be aware of that before the game. That way, when they do hook, then you can say to them, well, I told you before the game that I was going to be keeping a close eye on that. Right. Or when somebody hooks somebody and they don't call it, you've got to be accountable for that. So anyways, to me, that's the biggest issue with the NHL refs is they're not trained in how to properly officiate a game. They're taught the rules, but they're not really taught much beyond that as far as I can tell. And they're certainly not taught in any way that makes them effective game managers on the ice. And the rules themselves are also problematic as well. But again, I don't want to get into that too far. Entertap has the A team as Suzuki, Carrier, Gallagher, and Slavkovsky. Suzuki. You're very, very close, Entertap. You're very, very close. RDP. What a great win. Go Habs go. Yes, sir, Claude. Don't you remember in '86 when they put Roy in nets to carry them to Cup? He was a rookie. Yeah. '86 was a long time ago, Blackwater Canyon. You name me a goaltender in the NHL right now under the age of 22 who is starting in the NHL right now. It's a different world than it was in '86. Patrick Waugh is one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. Again, if you're suggesting that Jakub Dobeš should be the, and the Canadiens, were in a bit of a desperate spot when they put Patrick Waugh in nets as well. But again, if you're suggesting that Dobeš should be the number one goalie after 5 games in the NHL, then again, I'm not going to get into a big debate with you about it. But again, I think it's a really, really dumb position to take. Again, if Sam Montembeault was absolutely stinking it up and had an 800 save percentage over 10 games, then yeah, maybe your desperation takes you to that point. But that's not the scenario we're dealing with here. They don't bring experienced referees from the AHL and CHL anymore. They take former players. Okay, I'll have to look into that more. PW or P. LeWhite, Patrick. I'm not aware of that. Again, there's no. Again, Montreal Canadiens fans are very well known for, the expression is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, the Canadiens fans are famous for wanting to fix things that ain't broke, right? They're always looking, they're always looking at the new shiny object that they want to turn into something, even though things might be going really, really well. Larry, you are Hutson, Slavkovsky, Dobeš, Suzuki. No. What about all the people that wanted to trade Doc? Exactly. Where are the people that wanted to trade Doc? Where are the people that wanted to fire Marty St. Louis? Where are the people that wanted to, that thought that Arbor Jacki was going to get traded because he and Marty St. Louis didn't get along because Marty St. Louis sent him down to the minors and then made him sit on the bench for a couple games? Where are all the people who, whatever, right? Just relax, man. Relax, guys. What did Carey Price say? Just relax. It's all good. He might have played more, if not behind the so much. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Gary. Not sure what you mean by that comment. Maybe you can help me out with that. Patrick says Pizzetta won't probably play another game with the Habs. That's probably not far off, Patrick. I think that's probably not far off. Yes, Billy D. Yes. Hit that like button, guys. The RDP is telling you, hit that like button, guys. We got 14 people who have hit that like button. We have one person who hit the thumbs down, right? I'm doing a crappy job, so thank you for pointing that out, too. But we got 18 people watching right now. We've only got 14 thumbs up. The thumbs up button is right down here. Really easy. 20 people in the room right now. 20 people watching. Yes, André. André says, good evening. Bonjour tout le monde. On va parler en français si vous voulez aussi. C'est une émission bilingue ici. Si vous avez des questions en français, si vous voulez que je réponds en français, je peux faire ça aussi. Entertap and Larry are both greeting each other. Again, good friends. Welcome, both of you. Andre as well. I'm really getting tired of the lack of consistency in the refereeing. Well, there can't be consistency in the refereeing, Andre, because they don't know what they're doing, right? They're calling the game according to the situation and the score as opposed to according to the rule book. And the rule book has been so bastardized that they can't possibly get it right? Like all these automatic penalties we have, like go look up the rule for charging. There's another thumbs down. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for the thumbs down, Blackwater Canyon. Go look at the rule for go look at the rule for charging. Go read word for word what the rule for charging is, and let me know if you think that is being applied, if that rule is being applied in the NHL anymore. That'll be your homework for tonight, guys. If you go into Google and you search NHL rules PDF, you will get, I think the first or the second option will be the 2024-25 NHL rulebook. And you can open that up and you can search for the word, oh my God, my brain is not working. You can search for the word charging and you can go and look at the wording for the word charging. That'll be your homework for tonight. And tell me next time you see me, next time we're on the show, you can tell me whether or not you believe that the wording of that rule is being applied in the NHL. New Hook's game, yes, the kid has a ton of speed. It's definitely his biggest asset, and when he is using it, he's a very dangerous player on the ice. And if you've been listening to Arpon Basu, it's kind of Arpon Basu's big thing the last week and a half right now is, the idea that, Alex Newhook can use his speed defensively as well as offensively, right? So, speed can kill. I mean, that was our takeaway. That was our takeaway after, I can't remember what game it was a couple games ago, but speed kills, right? But speed kills on offense and it kills on defense too. You can use your speed to be a good defensive player. Lane Hutson, right? Lane Hutson isn't the fastest skater in the world, but he uses his speed. What speed he does have, he uses it to get back. There's another thumbs down. Holy cow, we're popular tonight. Use the speed to get back, right? So he pinches, but he's, a lot of he does get caught and he's going to get better at that. But for the most part, he's able to use his speed to get back into the play. Getting even with penalty minutes has always been, it is, yeah. And it's an ineffective way, right? Rules and officiating in sports are meant to do two things, right? It's meant to ensure that the game is fair, and it's meant to ensure that the players are safe. And if you're refereeing with, the number one goal being to make sure that both teams, get equal opportunities on the power play, you're not doing either of those things. You're not keeping the game fair, and you're not ensuring that the players are safe. Easy to forget about last night. Yeah, it's easy enough to forget about last night. I don't think they'll ever forget about it. I think they'll have learned some lessons from it. But yeah, it's easy to put it behind you. That's for sure. Entertap and Larry, you guys are having a chat. Thank you for the thumbs up, guys. Thank you for the thumbs down as well. I appreciate it. Keep them coming, guys. We have 21 people watching right now. Let's do it. We got 16 thumbs up and 3 thumbs down. There's a shortage of referees in minor right now. No one wants. Yeah, that's a big issue too, Andre. You're right. And I mean, I don't have children, so I don't have children who play minor hockey, but I do have friends who have children in minor hockey, and I do occasionally go and watch minor hockey games, and I hear the stories, and it's a pretty sad state of affairs, to be quite honest with you. Like the idea that you can't go watch a bunch of 10-year-olds play hockey without screaming and yelling at the referee is pretty pathetic, quite frankly. But it's happening. It's happening on a very regular basis. That 15-year-old kids who are trying to make a little bit of cash out there refereeing games that mean absolutely nothing. Right? They mean absolutely nothing. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care how good your kid is at hockey. When they're 10 years old, the games mean absolutely nothing. If you're yelling at the referee, then one, you're a complete moron, and two, you're ruining the game of hockey. So it's a sad state of affairs. Is Price ever going to make a return? Dude could still play. No, I think he's done, Wendell. I don't think he could still play. I think his knee is such that it would preclude him from playing. You shorten the bench when behind, and MLS knows how much Beck played this week. Yes, I agree. Yeah, I think you're right, Gary. But again, it's just like I said. It just if you're going to do that, if that's your intention, then I don't know what hurts you leaving Pizzetta in for one more game. Right? I don't. Again, I just don't. It just didn't. It didn't. Again, I'm not. The people who are arguing against me here, I don't quite get. I don't get the. I think you're arguing for the sake of arguing a little bit. At the end of the day, that's what he said, Billy D. Everybody needs to chill. That's what it was. At the end of the day, if you're suggesting that it was a good idea to put Owen Beck on the ice for a third game in 3 nights or a fourth game in 5 nights, then I think you're just arguing for the sake of arguing. It's not ideal. It's not the best idea. Did it turn out? Yes, it was fine. Was it likely to turn out? Yes, it was most likely going to be fine. But there was a risk involved with it, is what I'm trying to say. Right? Putting a kid on the ice for the 4th time in 5 nights, there's a risk involved with that, a risk that they didn't have to take. There's a risk that they didn't have to take. That's all I'm trying to say. Refereeing is a hot topic. Yes, minor sports right now. I mean, again, parents at all minor sports is really, really. I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you, Blue or Blackwater Canyon. I don't know who's doing that, but it doesn't really bother me. I'll take the thumbs down. Again, like it's. I think. Well, I mean, we're living in a society now where I think that people are. Assholes are emboldened to be assholes in our current society, if I can say it that way. And right now, the assholes are winning. So it is what it is. But right now, the assholes are winning, and maybe we're going to have to learn how to live with it. Maybe we all should become assholes like they are. So we are the hottest team in the NHL right now. No changes needed. I agree 100%, Gary. Caulfield is really getting consistent in every aspect of the game, and we saw a very physical Slav tonight. That line was spectacular tonight, right? And they'll continue to be that way. Cole Caulfield's game has completely evolved. He's a much better hockey player than he ever was before. He'll continue to be so. Like his game is well rounded. He's become the hockey player. He's become more than the hockey player than anybody expected him to be. And he's a spectacular hockey player, right? And, like I said, multiple times, including on the last show, he's more than just a guy who's going to post up and wait for a one-timer now. He's a guy who skates. He's a guy who creates offense for his teammates. He's a guy who creates offense for himself. He wins board battles. He retrieves pucks along the wall. He does, his game is, and he's good defensively. He's improved his game defensively. And if, there was, I can't remember where I saw it, but Nick Suzuki was asked about Caulfield in one of the post-game interviews, I think. And, he talked about how, Caulfield's improved defense has improved Suzuki's defense because he doesn't have to carry the load on that line, as much now because Caulfield can do, his own portion of the work. So again, that line will just continue to improve and get better and better and better. Sometimes I hit the thumbs down by mistake, but always reassess to a thumbs up. Should not focus on these. It's all good, Pila White. I think you can reverse the thumbs down if you want to. If you hit the thumbs down by mistake, you just have to hit it again and it will reverse itself. But it's all good. It's all good. If you hit the thumbs up twice, it puts a thumbs down. I don't know about that, but anyways, doesn't really matter to me. They get fed up and quit. Yeah. Again, wouldn't you? Like, how much money would they have to pay you, Andre, to go and listen to grown-ups threaten, call you names and then threaten to beat you up? right? They're going to have to pay you more than $25 a game for that. Here in Ontario now, kids who are just starting to ref wear the green armbands so the parents don't yell at them. Ridiculous too. Yeah, they do that here in Nova Scotia as well, Wendell. But unfortunately, the parents still yell at them. And it's like I said, we're living in a world where the assholes are winning right now, and it's just another example of it. A tired Owen Beck is better than a healthy Pizzetta. Well, I don't know if I agree with that. It's not whether one is better than the other that's the issue. Patrick, I agree with you. Owen Beck's a better hockey player than Pizzetta in every potential scenario. But the issue is the potential for injury, the potential for affecting his confidence. Putting it. We talk all the time. You hear coaches talk about putting young players into positions to succeed, right? Putting them into scenarios where they're likely to do well, they're likely to succeed. That's all I'm talking about. You're right, Andre. I agree with you. I don't get offended if we disagree on something. No worries. Why do you think they didn't play Pez tonight instead of? I'm not sure why. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they didn't. Blackwater Canyon. I don't know why they made the decision. Maybe Pizzetta is hurt. Maybe he couldn't go. Maybe again, it just seemed like an odd decision to make on a 3-on-3. I don't understand why they did it. Again, I don't have an answer. Like I said, it turned out and it was fine, but it just seemed like an odd decision to make. Games are faster than ever. Not easy to be a referee, especially with video replays everywhere. Well, it isn't, Patrick. There's 2 referees on the ice now. There's no reason why you can't referee properly if you know what you're doing. I referee rugby on a field that's 4 times the size of a hockey rink, and you're one referee on the field at a time. And I was refereeing at times, in lower levels, not as high level as obviously the NHL. But if you know anything, you know that putting a bunch of men on a rugby field between the ages of 18 and 30, and they're playing recreational, high level recreational rugby. The testosterone on that field can lead to a lot of things, and you have to be very aware. And if yes, I didn't catch everything, but it's possible. And that's a fast game too, and there's a lot to watch. There's 15 players on each team, as opposed to 6. Like there is in hockey, and like I said, the field is enormous. There's always half a field behind you that's outside of your vision. So again, I don't think that the speed of the game is an excuse. There's 4 officials on the ice for 12 players. I don't think there's an excuse of the game being too fast. Probably Leafs fans give me a thumbs down. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Yes, Suzuki always plays well. He's very solid. Was I born and raised in Nova Scotia? I was born in Nova Scotia. I was raised in Quebec, and I'm currently living in Nova Scotia. That would be the great T-shirt. Yes, it actually would be a good T-shirt, wouldn't it, Billy D? The assholes are winning. They are winning. This is for sure. Suzuki is a beast. Great captain material. Love the goal he scored. Yes, 100%. All right, let's do this quick, guys. Let's get over to our scoreboard real quick. I won't spend a ton of time on it. There's a lot of goals to talk about, and we've been doing the comments for almost an hour here now. So there we have it, guys. Montreal Canadiens, 5-4 win in overtime. I'll go through the goals really, really quickly for you. There you have it. There's all of the information you need. And we're going to go real quickly to this. And while we do this, guys, I'm going to show you. You're going to see the little ad for the Substack happening right there. Substack is a new platform. It's not a new platform, but it's a platform that I've set up where we have a spot where you guys can go and chat about the game before, after, during, whatever you want to do. I would invite you to go and join our Substack over on that app if you are so inclined. It would be really cool to have a good place to have a conversation about the game when the game isn't going on, and when the game is going on, you can have comments over there for sure. But when the show is not going on. First period, Alexis Lafrenière scores from K'Andre Miller. A bit of a fluky goal. K'Andre Miller takes a shot from the point. It misses the net. It hits the very, very bottom of the boards, and somehow, I don't understand the physics of it all, but it bounces up over the top of the net, ends up right in front of the net. Lafreniere is standing there. Dobesh doesn't have a clue what's going on, and the puck ends up on Lafreniere's stick. He puts it in the net. 1-0 New York. The Canadiens were kind of carrying the play at that point, and it kind of took a little bit of the air out of their a balloon a little bit at that point. Then you have Brendan Gallagher scores about 4 minutes later, his 11th of the season from Dvorak. Keandre Miller again trying to clear the zone, and Josh Anderson actually manages to cancel that clearing attempt. He blocks it. The puck deflects to Christian Dvorak along the left-hand wall, and Dvorak just kind of throws a puck at the net up high, and Gallagher deflects it, sort of up around chest level. Some debate as to whether or not his stick was too high, but in the end they allowed it. It was a good goal. It deflected past Jonathan Quick, and then again, like I was telling Entertap before, right? They score a goal, then the Rangers come right back. They allow another goal from the Rangers right away. Will Cooley unassisted at 14:38. This was the one that was the bit of the stinker. David Savard passes the puck back behind the net to his partner Arbor Jacki looks to me like he was trying to flip it out of the zone, like he was trying to flip pass, and he kind of fanned on it, and he just gave the puck to Will Cooley, who was in the high slot, and Will Cooley, all alone in front of the net, and he beats Jakub Dobesh 2-1 after one period. The shots at that point were 9-5 in favor of the Canadiens, so they did carry the play in that first period. The high danger scoring chances were 4-2, and the expected goals were 0.9 to 0.7, I think, something like that. And so after one, it's 2-1 for the Rangers. So the Canadiens are kind of feeling probably a little bit disappointed that they don't have a better result for the way they've played, but they have come back from the Saturday night game. They have rebounded and played well. They're just behind in the scoreboard. So they're looking to turn that around. So second period, the Canadiens come out and they get what I thought was a power play goal, but I could be wrong on that. Has anybody checked that out? Let me just go back and have a look here just to be sure. The Christian Dvorak goal was at 5:07, and the penalty. Okay, so the penalty had just expired. The Rempe penalty had expired by about 5 seconds. So it wasn't actually a power play goal, despite what it says on our scoreboard there. So it's a goal from Dvorak, from Gallagher and Newhook at 5:07, not a power play. Newhook recovers a loose puck in his own zone. He skates the puck into the Rangers zone. He drops it to Gallagher at the blue line. Just as he crosses the blue line, he drops it to Gallagher, and Gallagher makes a cross-ice pass to Dvorak. And Dvorak shoots, and it bounces in off of H.A.D. 2-2. Again, as I said before to Entertap, the Rangers then come back. It was about 5 minutes later. This time Zibanejad on the power play from Fox and Panarin. Zibanejad with a shot. He misses the net. The rebound bounces over to Panarin over on the right wall. Panarin gets the puck back to Zibanejad again, and Zibanejad again. He's the trigger man on that power play. He fires another one. It's a bit of a soft floater of a shot, but it manages to get through to Dobesh and to beat Dobesh, and the score is 3-2 at that point. The Canadiens do come back 5 minutes later. Nick Suzuki unassisted. Again, a great forecheck by Suzuki. He's putting pressure on the new Ranger, Will Borgen. Borgen tries to clear a clearing pass, and Suzuki gets his stick in the way. He steals the puck. He goes in all alone on Quick, and he beats Quick with a wrist shot. And at that point, it is, I believe, 3-3. Yeah. And then, again, the Rangers come right back with another goal about a little over a minute later. Kreider's goal from Fox and Lindgren. The Rangers are putting on a bit of pressure. Dobesh makes a nice save. The rebound ends up at the point with Lindgren. Lindgren misses wide of the net, and Fox gets the puck sort of right in the corner a little bit, sort of right where the goal line meets the boards. And he makes a perfect pass across the crease to Chris Kreider, who basically doesn't even have to do anything. The puck essentially just goes in off of his stick. It's an easy deflection for him, and the score at that point is 4-3 for the Rangers. That's the score after two periods. The third period, the second period shots are 13-11 for the Rangers. It's probably their best period of the game. The high danger scoring chances are even at 6, And again, I'm not sure I buy this stat, but according to Natural Stat Trick, 2.5 to 0.7 in expected goals in that second period, which seems extraordinarily high to me. I didn't think that the play was that much in favor of the Rangers, at least by my eye, anyway. So, in any event, going into the third, the Rangers have a 4-3 lead. And the Canadiens are obviously, they're trying to score, and they're trying and trying and trying. They're playing really, really well. They dominate the third period. We see the shots are 16-6 in favor of the Canadiens in the third period. The high danger scoring chances are only 4-2, but I suspect they're more than that. 1.8 to 0.6, I think, are the expected goals. They just can't seem to score until Uri Slavkovsky scores his sixth of the season from Caulfield and Hutson. Hutson picks up a loose puck in his own zone. Great rush. He carries it. He makes a nice backhand pass to Cole Caulfield as they're crossing the blue line. Cole Caulfield goes in on goal, gets a shot, and Jonathan Quick makes the save. But Uri Slavkovsky really cleverly is trailing the play. The rebound is there for him, and he buries it. And then ends up, running through the crossbar. But he scores the goal first, and the score is tied at 4. And that's the way it ends in regulation. So we head to overtime. Pretty entertaining overtime period. A lot of opportunities both ways. Jakub Dobeš made 2, really, really key saves when it counted. He really held them in there. The Rangers had good scoring opportunities. Dobeš shut the door. And then late into the overtime period, I guess there was about a minute left in the overtime period, a great two-man play between Guhle and Laine. Guhle passes to Laine in the defensive zone. Laine carries the puck. He passes it to Guhle at the blue line and then goes to the net. Guhle finds him backdoor, and Patrick Laine buries it. And that's all she wrote. The Canadiens win. The score is 5-4. It's an overtime win, and that's all there is. So 38-27. The shots were 3-2 for the Rangers in overtime. For the game, the Canadiens dominated the shots 38-27. The high danger scoring chances were 14-10, and the expected goals were 4.6 to 3.7. So dominant in all categories for the Canadiens. They were the better team, certainly in the first and third period, but for the most part in the game, I think they were the better team. And so that's how the score looked, guys. Yeah, what do we think about all that? So let's get back to the comments here. 38 shots. That might be the highest this season. They had 40 against Chicago, I believe. Blackwater Canyon, I think, is the most, but I think that's right up there as well. They did bounce back. Dvorak played well. I agree. We will get to our. Carrier impressed me as well. We will get to our A team here in a second, guys. You don't miss Barron at all. I don't miss Barron at all either, which is unfortunate because I like Barron. He's a good kid, and I think he's a good hockey player. He just hasn't. He hasn't been able to put his entire game together. So I can't complain about any player. That's been kind of what's been nice about this team of late, right? I mean, early in the year, it was hard to find 2 or 3 guys that you could say had good games. Now it's hard to find any player, who you could say had a bad game. So Dobeš was struggling, but he made the big saves when needed. I don't know if I would say he was struggling, but again, he came down to earth a little bit. Playing in the Bell Center for your first time, probably a little bit tougher, and he didn't play as well as he did in the first 4 games, but I think he certainly played well enough for the Canadiens to give the Canadiens a good chance to win. Maybe the shot location, the expected goals. Yeah, again, it's a complicated thing, and I don't always. I'm a skeptic a little bit when it comes to advanced stats. Not what their value is, but the way that they're tracked. Like who's tracking these? And I would like to know. Nobody has been able to explain to me sort of procedurally how these high danger scoring chances and expected goals, how they're tracked. Like is there a guy sitting there with a computer who tracks like the angle, or is it all done through the puck? Like is it done? The puck is all computerized now, and they can. Like I don't. Doc had a bit of. I thought Doc played well tonight. I think he's skating well. I think he moved the puck well. He had a couple of good shot opportunities. He did, I thought that line played well tonight. Barron is still young at the same age. Carrier was not even playing in the NHL. Yeah. Barron's a first-round draft pick, and he had a lot of expectations on him. I find he's a really good skater. He has a really, really nice shot, and I just feel like his brain hasn't caught up to his ability just yet. That line A trade is looking genius. I see you. Rain's keeping an eye on you there, Intertap. Watch yourself. I don't disagree with that either, Andre. They did give him a chance. I don't disagree with that. And I think that Colorado gave him every chance too. But again, I'm not. I'm not a guy who likes to dance on other people's graves, right? I don't get enjoyment out of other people's failures. For me, I'm not gonna shit on a kid, man. I'm not gonna shit on a 22-year-old kid who's trying to do one of the hardest things in the world, right? And not every kid is going to make it. Not every kid's going to make it right away. And Justin Barron, like the ability that some hockey fans have to absolutely castigate young hockey players, blows my mind sometimes. Like, these are human beings, right? These are kids who are living out their dream or trying to live out their dream. And meanwhile, some 40-year-old overweight guy who's never played a sport in his life is going to sit on his couch and talk about how shitty Justin Barron is, right? Yeah, I get it. Justin Barron's not playing well enough, and he's not. And I'm not referring to you as that, Andre. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I'm just talking about fans in general. The audacity that some people would, the way they talk about young hockey players sometimes really, really kind of blows my mind sometimes, right? It's, he's a good kid. And you're right. The Canadiens did give him every chance. I agree with you 100% completely. They could not continue to give him opportunities. The opportunities were exhausted in Montreal, and he had to go somewhere else and see if he could make it there. But at the same time, for me, it's a shame because I think he's a good kid. He tries hard, he works hard, and he's got all the talent in the world, but he just hasn't been able to put it all together. What I like Intertap is Doc as more drive with the puck, trying to skate more with the puck. Yeah, he's got more confidence. His speed is coming around, and again, he's not hesitant, right? And again, I think that to me was more mental than it was. Marcel Bonnet died. He played with my uncle. Way back in the day. Yeah, he's got more confidence. He's winning board battles, and to me, it's not so much his knee was slowing him down. It was his brain was slowing him down. Right? He was just kind of reluctant to when you're getting back into something. Sometimes you're not ready to go at full speed right away, and it looks like he's finally getting there. Capo Caco was labeled as to very recently. He is now. Yeah. Again. Some players need a change of scenery. Some players need, somewhere different to be, and there's lots of guys like that, right? The Canadiens have quit. One of the big issues with the Canadiens in the past has been they quit on players a little bit too early, and it is what it is. Barron is young, needs experience, and he'll be good. Carrier already has the experience, and he's a solid D. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to pure talent, Carrier, isn't even close to Justin Barron, but Carrier is just, he's learned how to get the job done at the NHL level. Doc has cleaned up the bad pass. Yeah, well, that comes with the confidence, right? When you're not hesitant, when you're not holding back a little bit, it's like when you do anything and you feel like, okay, well, now I'm only going to go 75%. Well, that's a recipe for disaster if you're not going full speed, right? What's up, Ronnie? How are you? Have I got my rum? I don't have any rum here tonight. The rum is over in the tiki bar. On a pas de rhum ce soir. Sorry. Main problem Intertap is Doc may not have the right mind to play two-way center in the NHL. What's the evidence of that, Patrick? What's the evidence of that? Where are you drawing that conclusion from? All right, guys, how about we do the A-team? I disagree completely with you about that, Patrick. I think you're completely wrong about that. And even if you're right, there's no evidence of it so far. So Let's get to the A team, guys. Have you guys got any ideas about what you think the A team should be? I do, because I'm going to show you right now my A team. So the A team, guys, is basically my version of the 3 stars. Instead of 3, we pick 4. And the 4 is based on the A Team, the great 1980s television show, Hannibal Lecter, Face, Murdoch, and B.A. Baracus. So here we go. There it is, guys. What do you think? There is tonight's A-team. We have Brendan Gallagher, Uri Slafkovsky, Cole Caulfield, and Alexandre Carrier. Those are the 4 members of tonight's A-team. I just thought Brendan Gallagher played a Brendan Gallagher game tonight. He got a point, he got a goal and an assist, but he was just, he was a pest out there. He was skating. He was, winning battles. He was, not giving up. He was just being Brendan Gallagher. And I thought he looked really, really good tonight. Uri Slafkovsky and Cole Caulfield, obviously Nick Suzuki could belong on the list. I'm always hesitant to put all 3 guys from a line on the list. I don't know why. Maybe I shouldn't be. I picked Slafkovsky tonight. He finally, he was able to get a goal. I thought he looked really good. He was physical. What did he finish hits-wise? Did he have, he must have had some hits tonight. I know he threw hits. Did they actually credit him with any hits is the question, I guess. Where's Slafkovsky? They say he had just 3 hits tonight. I would venture to say it was probably more than that. But he was physical. He was winning battles on the boards. He was making passes, right? Like he was, putting pucks on the tape. There was a few instances tonight where that line had, prolonged pressure, prolonged play in the other team's zone, and he was, a big part of it. And finally, Alexandre Carrier. Again, we just talked about him. I think he's, played one of his better games tonight. I know that I looked at some of his advanced stats, and they were pretty special. Like, I think he was on the ice for, let's have a look here, see if I can find it real quick without doing too much here. So he was... He was on the ice for 12 shots for and just 2 shots against. Right? That's pretty impressive. For a defenseman, for you to only be on the ice for 2 shots against, and then to add to that the fact that you were on the ice for 12 shots for, that's a pretty impressive number. 86% essentially shot percentage for him. Expected goals were only 61%. Well, I say only 61%. I shouldn't actually. Let me go back here. His shot for percentage was 12-2 in all circumstances, and 61% expected goals for. So that's a pretty impressive numbers there. So I know I saw some of you guys were throwing your own players out there. If there's any guys you feel like I missed, or if there's any guys you don't think should be on there, let me know. Intertap has Suzuki, Carrier, Gallagher, and Slafkovsky with honorable mention to Hutson. Okay. Yeah, I think all those guys are worthy of it. I would. I just did. I didn't. I guess Caulfield versus Suzuki, I guess, would be the only difference. I'm a bat vampire. Okay, I don't know what that means, guys. Minus 24. What are we talking about? Minus 24. Well, I don't know if you've noticed this, Patrick, but Kirby Dach struggled for the first half of this year. He's coming back from an injury, missed most of last season. He struggled in all aspects of the game. So again, I get you that he's a minus 24, but I think if you're, if that's what you're basing your opinion on, I think you're probably, I think you're looking at the wrong things. Let's see. Let me see something here. Let me just check something to see if I can counter your argument, if I might be so bold. So in his last... So he's even tonight against the Rangers. He was minus 2 last night. He was a +1 against Dallas. He was a +2. Again, plus minus is a horrible stat. It means absolutely nothing. But it doesn't mean absolutely nothing. It means very little. -2 against Toronto last night, +1 versus Dallas, +2 against Utah, -1 against Dallas, -1 against Washington, even against Vancouver, even against Colorado, -1 against Chicago, -1 against Vegas, +1 against Tampa Bay, and +2 against Florida. So that was the 3. So he's even, -1, +1, +2. So he's even. His plus minus is even if we go back to that first game after Christmas. Right? So we go back to that first game after Christmas, he's got an even plus minus. So, and keep in mind that for Kirby Dach, he was playing on a line. Patrick Laine missed 4 games because of he had the flu, so they lost one of their line mates there. So I don't think that if you're suggesting that Kirby Dach struggled defensively for the first 30 games of this season, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But if you're suggesting that that's somehow an indication that he doesn't have the ability to play a two-way game in the NHL, I don't think that you're right. Patrick says Galley, Slav, Suzuki, Cartier. Yeah, I got no problem with those guys. Again, I think it's coming down to the Caulfield versus Suzuki situation. Gallagher, Suzuki, Caulfield, and Jack-Eye. I like Jack-Eye, and I like Jack-Eye's game. I think that turnover that led to a goal probably kept him off of my A team tonight. But I think the other 3 guys, I think I wouldn't have any problem with. Yes, I agree, Galley. I don't know where he gets the energy to play like that. Last year, I thought he was done. Yeah, I agree with that, and he certainly looked like it last year, Ronnie. But again, I think he's found a second wind. I think that the Canadiens have, Marty St. Louis has learned how to use Brendan Gallagher more effectively, and Brendan Gallagher has learned, to play, the role that's been put in front of him, right? He's not worried about scoring goals the way he used to be, right? Like, he's been decimated by injuries. Like, his body is a disaster, and he can't play the game he used to play. He can't play 16, 17, 18 minutes a game, and he's not going to produce a bunch of points for you. But what he can do is he can play 13 or 14 minutes, and he can go out there and he can skate his ass off every shift for 30 seconds at a time, and he can win board battles, and he can be a pest out there. And guess what? If he does all that, he'll get some scoring chances too. And he still has a little bit of his old scoring touch. So I thought he might have been done too, but again, he's same with Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson has found a new role for himself, and he's accepted the role, and it's allowed him to revive his career. I based my doc statement on over 6 season sample of very bad Corsi and not viable face-off percentage at 35%. Well, again, I don't know that that's a demonstration, Patrick, that he's doesn't have the mind to play a two-way game in the NHL. He's still 23 years old. So again, I think you're basing. First of all, I don't think he's played 6 seasons in the NHL. If we're going to start there, but he's played. This is his 6th season. One season he only played 2 games, and one season he only played 18 games. So, he's a 23-year-old kid, right? So again, I don't agree with you. If you want to say that he hasn't shown a high level defensive game so far in his career, you can say that. But to say that he doesn't have the ability to do it, I don't think is fair. I am, Ronnie. That is correct. Jack-Eye played his best game tonight. Okay. I don't agree with that, Andre. I don't think it was his best game. But again, if you feel that's the case, I thought he was perfectly fine tonight, but I don't think it was his best game. Dobesh saved them in overtime. Yeah, he made 2 nice saves in overtime. Muck, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean that's what your goalie's supposed to do, right? He's supposed to make saves, and that's what he did. But welcome. I don't think I've ever seen you here before, Muck, but welcome. Thank you for coming. Give us a follow if you're so inclined. Ronnie is from Nova Scotia, Dartmouth, and lived in Wedgeport. Okay. You were involved in the fishing world, fishing industry out in Wedgeport? Wi-Fi fight was a good motivation, close one. I agree that it was good motivation. I don't know that I would say it was a close fight. I thought it was a pretty one-sided fight. Jack-Eye fight tonight changed the momentum, and he played physical the entire game. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's his game. I agree with that. Anderson played well. Did you see Anderson? There was one point in the game where Anderson just took off, and like that guy, that guy can give anybody on the Canadiens a run for their money for, as far as speed is concerned. He can skate. Hab Wild, what's going on? Welcome. They say it takes about 350 games for power forwards and D to figure it out. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the player, Hab Wild. Again, I wouldn't be making any conclusions about any players really until they've played, a significant number of games. Obviously, some players come into the league and they're able to get things a little bit quicker. But that's guys like Lane Hutson who step in and are able to handle the game right away are pretty rare. Not Jack Guy's best game, but a great timing to fight and destroy Rempe. Yeah, again, everyone's entitled to their opinion, Patrick, but I tend to agree with you. I don't think it was Jack Guy's best game in my view, but certainly he had an impact on the game, right? And when you're a third pairing defenseman and you can impact the game, that's good, right? That's what you want. You want all of your guys to be able to impact the game from their various roles and the various play that they come from. Anderson was in the first 95th percentile in the NHL as far as skating-wise, top speed. Didn't look at this season. Okay, yeah, he's a great skater. Big body, good skater. Yeah, the game was a close one. Yes, Frank, absolutely, it was. All right, guys, let's do our report card. Let's do the report card real quick. Again, guys, the report card is a different way of looking at the game. We started doing the report card because in a rebuild, it's not always the score isn't always the best indicator as to whether or not the team played well or not. Sometimes they play well and lose. Sometimes they play badly and win. And so we kind of wanted to look at things a little bit differently. So we created a report card. If you haven't noticed, I changed the report card a little bit prior to yesterday's game because I think that the Canadiens have evolved a little bit as to where they are in their rebuild. But before we get to the report card, guys, if you are here in the live, if you are watching, please subscribe. YouTube says that only 35% of the people who watch the show are subscribed. The subscribe button is just on the screen here below me, right? Sorry, guys, what's going on here? I want this. And this. So right here on the screen, sort of below me here. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We're trying to grow our community. Give us a thumbs up. That works too. But if we're trying to get to 500 subscribers. YouTube allows us to do some pretty cool stuff once we get to 500 subscribers. Plus, the more people we have, the better community we can give you guys as far as being able to have a spot to, have some civil, non-toxic conversations about the Montreal Canadiens, where we can come and we can talk about the game on a higher level than you might get, let's say, on Twitter or wherever. So that's what we're trying to do. So if you subscribe, that's really helpful. Whether you're watching live or in a replay, just hit that button down below. That would be awesome. Much appreciated. I will stop talking about it, guys, once we get to 500, but we really want to try to get to that 500 subscriber level. And then after that, I think things will just start to come. But I do want to try and grow the community to a certain level so we can get to the point where we have a better conversation. So tonight, three or fewer goals against. Fail, right? They allowed 4. Bit of a standard in the NHL. If you allow less than 3 goals a game, you probably have a good chance of making the playoffs. Conversely, if you score more than 3 goals a game, you probably also have a good chance of making the playoffs. If you do both of those things, you're almost guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. Tonight, the Canadiens, they won 5-4. So obviously they allowed too many goals, but they were able to score enough goals. Let's have a quick look at the standings here for a second and just see where they are as far as the season is concerned for goals for and goals against. So they have 142 goals for and 155 against. Their differential is a -13. Obviously, it took a bit of a beating last night with the 7-3 loss to the Maple Leafs. But that number is coming around. If you remember last year, I believe they were -46 or something like that for the season last year. So that number has improved. That was one of the things you could look at to see the Canadiens' progress in the rebuild. I think the year before that they were like -58 or something like that. So each of the last 3 years they've steadily improved, and if they can keep this number up, it'll be a significant increase or improvement from last year. Special teams, I gave them a failing grade. 0 for 3 on the power play, and they allowed a power play goal, even if it was just 1 for 2. I'll give them a failing grade there. They had some opportunities on the power play, and the Dvorak goal happened just at the end of a power play, but I'm giving them a failing grade there. Actions that helped the other team, that's a Marty St. Louis talking point. I thought there were some actions tonight that helped the other team. There were some turnovers. There were some giveaways, in particular the Jack Guy turnover. I thought, again, I'm not going to jump on him about it. But again, it wasn't a very, very smart play. He tried to do more than he had to, which is when Arbor Jack Guy typically gets in trouble, is when he tries to do more than what's necessary. Yeah, so I'll give them a failing grade there. But then they get check marks across the board. They weathered the storm. They didn't sort of flounder when things went against them. When the Rangers scored goals, they were able to come back and respond. They didn't sort of fall apart. Again, same thing, dealing with adversity, right? When things went badly, when they got penalties called against them, when the other team didn't get penalties, when things, these were things that affected them negatively earlier in the season, right? They would allow a goal and they would kind of feel down and get down about it. Then they would allow 2 or 3 more goals, and before you know it, they're out of the game. And they had the ability to lose a game in sort of a very short period of time. Tonight they didn't do that. FU factor, right? Loved it, like a ton of FU factor tonight, right? They had the scrum in front of the bench where Anderson and Braden Schneider and all of those guys were going at each other, and the Canadiens stood their ground. They didn't back off. They were more than happy to get involved in that stuff, right? They were more than willing to do that. And then of course you had the fight with Jack Guy and Rempe. I thought Jack Guy won the fight handily, and certainly the Canadiens are showing that physically they can match up with teams as well, and that's a big part of their game. I don't think that the fighting is going to be a huge part of their game, and I don't think that it should be a big part of their game, and it shouldn't be a big part of Jack Guy's game. But when necessary, it's nice to know that you've got a guy who can do that, right? It's nice to know that you've got a guy who can fight with anybody in the league. And so when a situation does arise where you need a guy to go in and play that job, do that job, that you have one of the best in the league. And they haven't had that in a very long time, right? So the FU factor I thought was good tonight. Who was talking about it? Sean Starr. If you don't check out Sean Starr, guys, he does a YouTube show as well. He does a Sean Starr show or something. I forget what it's called. It's really, really good. I'm not a huge fan of Sean Starr on the radio. He and I have had it out in the past multiple times, and frankly, I don't really enjoy the morning show on TSN 690. But his YouTube show is spectacular. It's really, 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 really good. And I highly recommend it. If you get a chance to go and listen to it, I highly recommend it. He's very, very good. It's funny because I've participated and commented on a show, and he and I have had some conversations back and forth. Frankly, I think if he knew who I was, based on some of the things that we have had said to each other in the past, he probably wouldn't be really happy, because he and I have had it out in the past. But him alone on a YouTube show, freestyling it a little bit, is really, really good. He's really, really good at it, and I highly recommend checking it out. He's one of my go-to spots for Canadiens content now. And I honestly, I went to watch a show really thinking that I wasn't going to enjoy it, and kind of looking for another reason to not enjoy it. But it was really, really good. Highly recommend. And they played for 60 minutes, right? I mean, we can complain about certain aspects of their game. Their defense probably needs to tighten up a little bit, but they certainly were in the game and played for a full 60 minutes. There was no sort of period of letdown that I noticed anyway, so I'm happy to give them a check mark there. So if you agree with any of that, let me know. If you disagree with any of it, let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Give me a thumbs down if you disagree with it. All that good stuff. Yeah, we'll get back to the comments here. Habwell, Doc missed a lot of time. Can start worrying about him after next season, barring another injury. Yeah, again, I'm not worried about Doc. I think Doc's going to be fine. I've seen enough from Doc in his career, both as a Canadian and beforehand, to be relatively confident in what he's capable of doing. And I'm not worried about Kirby Doc. And, the idea that, he's not capable of this or not capable of that is far too early to make any of that judgment. I'm not concerned about what I've seen enough from him to know what he's capable of, and it's just a matter of him being able to do it on a more consistent basis. NHL Edge players' jerseys have chips, etc., to track stats. Yes, they do. Um, I don't know that that's how they're tracking expected goals at Natural Stat Trick Pilo. For example, I know that the expected goal statistic that you get from Money Puck is different than the expected goal you get from Natural Stat Trick. So it's not based strictly on data that they're getting from the jerseys and from the chips and the puck. So, for example, tonight, if you go to Money Puck had the expected goals between the two teams at 5.47 to 4.33 in favor of the Rangers. And if you go to Natural Stat Trick, in all situations, you have 4.55 to 3.85 in favor of the Canadiens. So I don't understand the discrepancy there, right? So Natural Stat Trick says that the Canadiens had, about 3/4 of a goal more expected goals than the Rangers, whereas Money Puck says that the Rangers had more than a full goal, more expected goals than the Canadiens. So that's why I say that I have my, I'm a bit of a doubter when it comes to advanced stats. Not because I don't believe they're valuable, but because if somebody needs to explain to me why one website has a completely different take on the exact same stat than another one. Everyone played with grit tonight. Yeah, I think they responded to last night's game exactly the way you would want them to, right? They came out and they took it as a point of pride to make sure that they rebounded. Looks like Lane Hutson had a couple of assists in the bus of the game. A couple of assists in the bus of the game. Amazing players. I don't know what that means, Frank. Looks like Hutson had a couple of assists back on the plus side. He was a -1 tonight, Frank. He only had 1 point tonight. I believe just the 1 assist. But yes, he did play better tonight. Goal differential of the Habs, you have to consider variance. They got a lot of bad defeats this season that is skewing the goal differential. Absolutely. And again, I think that makes the number even more impressive that they're at a -13. Like I said, the 7-3 loss last night had a big impact on that number. That number was heading very steadily towards an even number between goals for and goals against, and it took a bit of a beating last night with a 7-3 loss. Yeah, both teams back to back, never pretty. Yeah, the power play looked good. They were snapping around quick, made some good saves. Yeah, it didn't look terrible. I still feel like they need to find a way to get more opportunities from the bumper position. Obviously they can rely on Laine from the from the left dot, and he's going to score goals there. And if they can get him the puck over there, that'll be very effective for them. But they need to have some other options out there as well. And I believe they have the personnel for it, but they just haven't been able to get that player in the bumper position who can be like the Braden Point, right? Braden Point scores from that from that spot time and time again. And again, I'm not suggesting that they can replicate what Kucherov and Point are able to do, but if they can at least make that an option, then I think the power play will be even more impressive. No one mentioned Matheson, who was spectacular tonight. I thought he played a decent game tonight, Andre. Yeah, I thought he played well. Mike Matheson played a decent game. He used his skating, and he's a spectacular skating. He's beautiful to watch skating. Jack Guy was also wise to hold on to his gloves and draw the extra penalty. He wasn't scared doing it. Yeah, again, it's him growing up a little bit, right? We saw what he was like in the preseason this year, where he was flying off the handle a little bit, fighting out of emotion, and all this kind of stuff. I think that I've said this before. I haven't said it in a while, but I think that Arbor Jackeye has a real opportunity to sort of revolutionize the enforcer role in the NHL. Right, as a player who is valuable on the ice and is as tough as anybody on the ice. He can he can fight with anybody in the NHL. He's a physical specimen. He's a big hitter. He's a good skater. All that stuff. If he can develop the mindset, the proper mindset, I think that he can sort of take that role to a whole new level. Like again, not always about fighting. Fighting when you have to. Which is maybe 6, 7, 8 times a year. But being physical, throwing your body around, and being a menace. Being a menace physically, and at the same time being a steady third pairing defenseman. And again, being an enforcer in the NHL. And again, you saw it last night with Ryan Reeves. I'm not fighting you when we're up 3-0 in the first period. Look at the scoreboard, man. Are you crazy? Why would I run? Why would I take myself off the ice? Like, why would I put my team, in a situation where they're down a defenseman for 5 minutes at least, maybe more? Why would I run the risk of you turning the momentum by winning the fight? Right? Anybody can win a fight. Just because you're the toughest guy in the league doesn't mean you can't lose a fight. Everybody has a chance in a fight. So like, why would he do that? Why would he get like? Ryan Reeves is on the ice with one goal. He's trying to turn the momentum. That's his job. He knows that. He knows how to be an enforcer in the NHL. He's been doing it for 15 years or whatever it is. Right? He knows what his job is. But why would Jack Guy fall into that trap? Why would he let him do his job? Like, why? Yeah, Jack Guy could have beat the shit out of him and turned the momentum even further in favor of the Canadiens. But again, it's about weighing the risk. Even if there was only a 20% chance of Ryan Reeves winning the fight and turning the momentum in favor of the Leafs, why would you take that risk when you don't have to? Just doesn't make sense. And for a guy like Chris Nyland to come out and say, well, he shouldn't have done that, and he shouldn't have he turned the momentum, again, stupid. Why would you fight a player? Why would you give another player an opportunity to turn the momentum in favor of his team when your team has got all the momentum in their favor? If you're over on TikTok, guys, come on over and join us on YouTube. This is where we're doing the conversation. The show is called Habs After Dark. The instructions are on the screen. If you go to your YouTube app and you hit Recliner Sports 4, you can come on over, you can subscribe, you can join the show, and you can participate in the chat. For those of you that are here, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and let's get her going here. We got 21 likes. We got 16 people in here, and we're going to get back to the comments here. I hate how close the East is right now. There's going to be at least 2 or 3 good teams to miss out on the playoffs. Yeah, absolutely. But again, Muck, I don't think, if you're living and dying by the Canadiens making the playoffs this year, then I think maybe you might be disappointed. At the end of the day, this year is more about the Canadiens playing well and improving on last year. And continuing to play the way they're playing right now for as long as possible, right? It's not about making the playoffs isn't going to be the measure of whether this is a failure or a success of a season. So again, I like the fact that they're I agree with you. It's frustrating, but I like the fact that it's really, really close in the East because it means that these guys, these young players, are going to be playing really meaningful, important hockey games for the rest of the year. Right, they're not way down at the bottom, and they're not way ahead of anybody. So when for the next 2 months, every game is going to be important, and that's part of your development, right? Is learning how to play in big games, right? Last night, Toronto, Montreal, Bell Center, Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada, national TV audience. The crowd is electric. There's Maple Leafs fans, there's Canadiens fans. They're loud. It's whatever. That's something that those young players, a lot of them aren't used to. Like they've never seen that before. And how do you respond to that? How do you, and so now the next time that happens, they'll be ready for it. They'll be better at it. And then the time after that, they'll be even better at it. And so, for the rest of the season, instead of just playing sort of, meaningless games against meaningless teams that don't really advance your development in any way, now you're going to be playing, meaningful games against teams like Boston. You're going to be playing meaningful games against teams like Tampa Bay. You're going to be playing meaningful games against, teams like Buffalo, Ottawa, Columbus. Like all of these games are going to mean something. And, they're going to have, they're not playoff games. They're going to have playoff implications, and they're going to have, they're going to mean something. And so the more of those games that this team can play, the better, because then they're gaining that experience. They're gaining experience in playing important games at important times, and that makes them better hockey players. They're this aspect of the rebuild. They're learning how to win, right? And learning how to win is about playing in games where, where you need to show up every night. That's what In the Mix was all about, right? In the Mix was not a goal, right? When Jeff Molson and Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes stood up at the golf tournament and said, we expect to be in the mix, or if everything goes well, we expect to be in the mix. It wasn't like, if we're in the mix, it's a success, and if we're not in the mix, it's a failure. Like, that wasn't what in the mix ever was meant to mean, right? It was about, if we continue to move down the right path and we continue to improve and develop the way we have, we would expect at the end of the season to be playing meaningful games in April. And the reason that's valuable is because they want these kids, they want Caden Gooley, they want Lane Hutson, they want Uri Slavkovsky, they want, these young players to be playing meaningful games, so they know what it's like, right? Cole Caulfield knows what it's like, right? He went on that Stanley Cup run. He knows what meaningful games feel like. Nick Suzuki knows what they feel like. Brendan Gallagher knows what they feel like. But there's a lot of young players on this team that don't know that feeling. And so the more meaningful games they can play, the better it will propel them down the road of their rebuild. When Reinbacher comes back, that will help the defense big time. Yeah, I don't expect that Reinbacher will, if he manages to come back before the end of this year, I think he'll most certainly play the rest of the year in Laval, and then he'll get the opportunity to make the team next year in training camp, and we'll see how that goes. It would be ideal, I think, if he could come back and get a few 5, 6, 7, 8 games in before the end of the season, and then make it go on the playoff run with Laval. I think that would be a really great opportunity for him, and a great opportunity for Laval as well. Again, experience, right? Giving him the opportunity to experience playoff hockey at the pro level. It will advance his development. Entertap, I enjoy Sean. Yeah, Sean Campbell's not bad. Yeah, I like Sean Campbell. He's all right. Connor McKenna, can't stand. I think that's the reason why I don't like Sean in the morning, because he's on with Connor McKenna. Mitch Gallo has grown on me. Mitch Gallo, I will say, I'll give him credit. Mitch Gallo has worked very, very hard to become a good hockey analyst. If you listen to him when he first joined TSN 690, I think it was 660 at the time, TSN 660 or whatever it was called. He was just a kid off the street who didn't know anything about anything. And he was a Maple Leafs fan, I believe, when he first joined TSN 690. And he didn't really know much about anything about hockey. But he's worked really, really hard on his hockey knowledge. And he's worked really, really hard on, his broadcasting skills. And he's really good. He's really good. I think he's really done a lot. Sean Campbell is good too. But yeah, there's a few guys over there. I've always been a Mitch Melnick fan, although I feel like Mitch Melnick is kind of mailing it in a little bit now. And John's still not a huge fan. But Andy Bennett's really good. But anyways, yeah, Sean Starr, the point I guess I'm making, is that his YouTube show is really, really good, and I highly, highly recommend it. I highly recommend you check it out. Last time I was using 4 was using those stats. I don't know what you mean by that, Patrick. Rangers are sure having a tough time this year. Well, they've been playing a lot better lately, Frank. That was not a vulnerable Rangers team that the Canadiens beat tonight. The Rangers have been playing well the last 2 weeks. They've been playing better. Sean Starr is now my very best friend. Yes. We'll wait to see how long it takes me before I reveal my real name to him, Entertap. Yeah. Madison could have ended up with a couple of goals. Yeah. He needs to hit the net more. His ability to get the puck to the net is one of his weaknesses. I would say advanced stats in hockey are embryonic still. Yeah, absolutely. There's got a lot of work to go. And again, it's any stat, right? I mean, you should question any stat. Like, a lot of the stats that are compiled by the NHL, like the hit stat, um, again, it's worthless. It means absolutely nothing. Because the people who count it are different in every arena, and it's just there's no consistency to the hit stat, to the point where they even admitted that last year, and they did a complete audit of the hit stat, but it's still way off. I mean, there was a video by RDS about 2 or 3 weeks ago where they looked at the NHL stat that said Caden Gooley only had 2 hits in a game. It was the game against Vancouver. Remember the game in Vancouver when he buried Jonathan Lekkerimäki in the first minute and a half of the game? And according to NHL.com, Caden Gooley only had 2 hits in that game. And so, like, RDS actually did a little segment on it where they actually showed that hit and like 3 or 4 others, and kind of disputed the fact that they only counted 2 hits. So something to be said about the eye test at the end of the day. Stats are helpful, but should not be used as a Bible. Yeah, I don't think either should be used as a Bible enter tap. I think as of right now, I think that that advanced stats are still not ideal, and people are still working on finding not just the stats, but also the way of using the stats in the most effective way. There's some really cool people doing some really really cool stuff. If you're on Blue Sky, there's evolving hockey. There's a guy Micah something or other they're doing some really really cool stuff with the stats. Dom Lushishин does decent stuff. I mean, I disagree with him completely, and I think that his model is way off. He's the guy who does all the work for The Athletic, and he does hockey stat cards. I think that his model is way off, and I don't think it provides an accurate depiction of anything valuable on the hockey rink. But they're still doing lots of good work, and I think that there is value there. But I think that the eye test has value, and I think that advanced stats have value. But I don't think either one of them on their own is a very good recipe for good analysis. Muck, I don't watch a lot of Habs games, but isn't Suzuki a good bumper option? Yeah, he plays there, Muck. It's not so much whether they have a good bumper option; it's whether or not they can get the puck to the bumper and use that and get scoring opportunities from that spot. I mean, I think that Cole Caulfield is a good bumper option as well. But again, it's about getting the puck to that. Braden Point makes it look so easy, and it's not. And to be able to get open in that bumper position and get the puck to the bumper for a quick one-timer, is a skill, and it's one that the Canadiens have not really managed to pull off just yet. But if they do, and they can create, if Cole Caulfield or Nick Suzuki can be that bumper guy, and there's no reason why they can't, because I mean, to be frank with you, people will maybe jump on my face for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Lane Hutson has every bit as much ability to get the puck to somebody on a power play as Nikita Kucherov does, right? Again, you can say what you want. You can call me names. You can say I'm a rider or whatever. But Lane Hutson's ability when he has a man advantage to get the puck to another player is unmatched. And so, if you are that guy in the bumper, whether you're Suzuki or Caulfield or whoever, they could be working on that. And it's a matter of figuring out the best way to get the puck to that spot and to get the shot away. Rempe will be a flash in the pan. He's not even a flash in the pan, Patrick. He's not even in the pan. He's not even a flash. Like he's like a piddle on the side of the toilet. Like he's not like there's not one thing in the game of hockey that Matthew Rempe is good at. What give me one thing that Matthew Rempe is good at? Nothing. He contributes nothing. Nothing. He can't skate. He can't hit. He can't shoot. He can't fight. He can't do any of that stuff. He's a liability, right? And because he can't skate, he can skate okay in one direction in a straight line, but he can't skate backwards. He can't change direction. It's why he gets in trouble so much with his hits, right? Because he takes runs at guys, and NHL players, being skilled as they are, move out of the way to avoid him, and he ends up sticking an elbow out or an arm out or a leg out or whatever, and ends up hitting a guy in the head because he can't change directions and he can't stop and he can't he literally. I'm not even trying to be funny. He can't skate. He can't hit. Like Lane Hutson. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but like Lane Hutson won multiple board battles against Matt Rempe. 5'10" against 6'7" or whatever he is. Big, strong guy. Obviously, physically dominant over a guy like Lane Hutson, but couldn't win those battles. I'm absolutely correct about Jack-Eye. Marty St. Louis deserves a lot of credit. Laviolette, on the other hand, should be ashamed of himself of how he is using Rempe. Yeah, he's going to get him killed. Right? Remember when he first came in, he was running around with, the two black eyes from the Matthew Olivier fight, and the Rempire State and all this kind of stuff. Like they were throwing that kid to the dogs. Yeah, I don't think he has a shot at being an asset Intertap. Frankly, I don't think he has the skills. And again, I'm not somebody who dances on anybody's grave. I wish the guy well. I don't, he's a human being. He's living out his dream. God love him. Good for him. He's earning an NHL paycheck. He's, living large in New York City. I'm sure he's spending time with lots of ladies and doing all that fun stuff in New York City that, New York City offers, and, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure he's getting all of that, and good for him. But at the end of the day, he has no business in the NHL. Yeah, but that's the problem, RDP. He's in the NHL for one reason, and he's not even he's not even good at it. Like, hey, Marco, what's going on, man? We can all agree that, in the NHL, 80%, 85% of fights end up in a draw. Like scenario where, not really anybody lands a major punch, or not anybody really significantly clearly wins the fight over the other guy. Well, Matt Rempe's lost probably 75, clearly lost 75% of his fights. Like he's been beaten up multiple times. Like he's not a good fighter. I don't listen to George Larac, Patrick. I try to avoid him if I can. Oh, that's a good question. He might have, Marco. Did he? Are you being serious about that, or are you being facetious? I don't know if that's true or not. That'd be interesting. I didn't even check that, because I know there was Frankie Nazar for Chicago was not on the list at all. I think he ranked. You think he ranked 140 players or something, and Frankie Nazar wasn't there. Let's check. I'll check and tell you. Corey, actually, let's do the Athletic here. Can you guys bear with me for a minute while I check this? This will take me about, I don't know, not too long, I guess. Why is the screen so small? Why did I? Must have been trying to. Okay, Corey Pronman. Where are you? You're right there. So Corey Pronman. Da 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 bow bow bow. Where are you? Ranking the top NHL players and prospects under 23. So I will go and I can search by team. I will look for the New York Rangers. He did not rank Matt Rempe. He ranked Will Cooley at 61, and he ranked Brendan Othman at 119. But those are the only two Rangers on the list. So, anyways, I wouldn't have surprised me, is why I checked. But I do know that Frankie Nazar was a guy that I noticed is not on that. So Frankie Nazar is up in the NHL. He's putting up points in the NHL, and he's not even on the list. So they go up to... it goes up to 100 and how many players? So Corey Pronman, I mean, we can say what we want about him ranking Lane Hutson at 39th on the 5th tier, but he also doesn't believe, so there's 139 players here. and Frankie Nazar isn't one of them, which is, completely absurd. Yeah, in the mix, they wanted them to play relevant games. So again, it was not expressed as a goal. It was not expressed as, if we, if we're in the mix, if we're playing meaningful games in April, it will mean the season was a success. And conversely, that if we're not, it was a failure. What it meant was if things continue to develop as planned, we would hope and expect to be playing meaningful games in April. And the reason for that is that they want to be playing games that matter because it's a good experiment. It's good for the experience of the young players. It's a good experience for them, right? It's a good building block for them to be able to play in games that matter at that point of the season. Playoff implication games at that point of the season is a huge benefit to them. Thumbs up, guys. Give us some thumbs up. We've got 21 thumbs up and 3 thumbs down. Maybe we can get a few more. We're going to be on for about another 10 minutes, I'd say, and then we'll shut her down. But if we can get some more thumbs up, if you're watching the show either live or in a replay, hit the button down below and subscribe. We need to get more subscribers. We need to get to 500. We're trying to catch up with Coach Frenchie. We got to catch up with Coach Frenchie. We need more followers. We need more subscribers. We need to get there. Frank says, looks like Montreal and Boston are 1 point out of the wild card. I think that's right. I don't have it in front of me right now. There are games in hands probably, as Muck says. When is the last time the Habs were ahead of the Bruins 46 games into a season? It's probably been a while. It used to happen all the time, Entertap. Us old guys remember that, but Goulet showing that he is way better in offense than people think. Yeah, I've always said that once Goulet gets comfortable with his defensive game, I think you'll see his offense come out of the toolbox a little bit more. I think he's a guy who realizes that his bread and butter is being a solid defensive player. But once he gets comfortable with that part of his game, I think you'll see him skate more. I think you'll see him get into the play a little bit more. We saw it tonight. We saw his abilities. He had that one, the breakaway kind of partial breakaway shot on goal. He's getting involved in the offensive play a lot more. It's a great observation, Patrick. It's a part of his game that he did have. I mean, he had some offensive acumen when he played junior hockey, and it'll be interesting to see what he turns into when his game is complete at the NHL level. Who is going to be traded, if anybody? I don't know, Andre. I think it'll depend on what they're looking at. I mean, I could see them. I mean, obviously, I think they're going to try and sign Jake Evans. I could see them perhaps giving Armia a short-term contract to keep him around. I guess it depends on, I think, how they feel, how far away they feel some of their prospects are down at the American Hockey League level, right? Like, do they, I don't think they'll keep Armia if they feel like, there's 2 or 3 guys down in Laval that are ready to make the jump up to the NHL. But if they feel like, they're not 100% sure that, Joshua Roy and some of those other guys are ready to make the jump up, then maybe they feel like, Yoel Armia gives them that, can give them a year or two as a bit of a bumper or as a, what's the word I'm looking for? He can sort of hold that off for a couple years while those players continue to develop. So Dvorak, I think, is probably gone. So those would be the I guess on Savard, I guess on defense might go. Depends, I think, on what kind of offers they get. At the end of the day, I think for me, I think that Kent Hughes is in a great position in that realistically, you could see a scenario and you could live with any of those guys staying, or you could live with any of those guys going. Right? I think the only one who I think would be really missed would be Jake Evans. That would be hard to replace. But we'll see. It should be interesting. Or my thoughts on the McDavid cross-check. Should he get a suspension? Yes. Yes, he should get a suspension. I would say he would get a 3 or 4 game suspension for that. Because he's McDavid, it'll probably be more like a 2 or 3 game. But again, it's probably as bad or worse than the cross-check that Austin Matthews, if we're talking about superstars and cross-checks, I think is probably worse than the one that Austin Matthews had last year that got him a 3-game suspension. I had a bit of a debate on Blue Sky with a guy from Vancouver last night, a guy from Edmonton last night who, again, I get that Connor Garland played a big role in what led up to that cross-check, but so did Connor McDavid. I mean, Connor McDavid laid on top of him, and you could argue that Garland held him down, and I think Garland even admitted that he held him down to a certain degree. But Connor McDavid, fully participated. You know what it's like. Those NHL players, two guys go down on the ice, and they both kind of hold on to each other, and they take like 25 seconds to get up off the ice, and they all pretend they didn't do anything. Anyways, I think he should get suspended, and so should that big goofy guy. What's his name? The defenseman for Vancouver. I can't think of his name right now. Big, tall, goofy guy. Caulfield is more than a goal scorer. He generates offense. He does now, Patrick. You're right. He's totally changed his game. His game has changed completely. He's a far more complete hockey player. A lot of permutation on the power play tonight. Hutson was on the right wall. Suzuki. Yeah, well, and I think that's what that was what they planned all along, Patrick. That's what they planned all along for their power plays. They don't want to have guys in specific spots. They want to mix things up because it's confusing for the defenders. They don't want to have the same guy playing in the same spot, and they kind of abandoned that a little bit when Laine came around because he was so good in that spot and scored those 8 goals in 10 games or whatever, 8 power play goals. So I think they kind of abandoned that a little bit. Now I think they're going to try and maybe get back to it a little bit where they're never all in the same spot and they're moving around and it kind of throws the other team off. But it takes a really good power play unit to be able to do that, right? It takes, you all have to be good enough to play in every position, right? You have to be good in the bumper, you have to be good on the wall, you have to be good, on the shooting spot. So, yeah, I think the power play is kind of struggling a tiny bit right now because they've become a little bit of a one-trick pony. But we'll see how it goes. I think they'll do okay. They've certainly got the personnel for it. Does Lane Hutson have a relative in the 2027 or 2028 draft, or did I hear wrong? He has a brother named Lars, I think, is the youngest brother. So right now there's Lane. Quinn, I think, is the oldest. I think Quinn is the oldest. And then there's Lane, and then there's Cole, and then there's Lars. I don't know what kind of hockey player Lars is. I have no idea. But Cole and Quinn are both playing at Boston University right now. Rempe will be out of the NHL in a very few years. Yeah, I don't know. I hope it is with all of his faculties in place. I hope for his sake. Every time I watch Newhook, he looks good. He always had the potential to be a top 6 forward. Yeah, I agree, Muck. I agree. I mean, he's a first round draft pick. He has all the tools. He's a little bit small, but he's got good speed. He has a decent shot. We saw tonight that he's capable of putting a couple moves on a defenseman. For him, again, I think it's just a matter of him bringing the entire package together. He is not efficient in any aspect of the game. I think we're talking about Matt Rempe. He is not good at any aspect of the game. I agree. The way Goalie is playing, I would take him before Sanheim to the Four Nations Cup. Sanheim's playing pretty good too. I think Goalie will get to that point. I think Goalie has the ability to get to that point where he's considered at that level. But I don't know that he's there at this point. Who's being moved at the deadline? We just talked about that, Andre. Again, I think there's a number of guys who, if they get the right offer, they will make a move. But again, I don't think they feel compelled that they have to make a move. Thank you, Frank. Thanks for the thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up, guys. If you haven't done so yet, there's 14 people watching. There's 21 thumbs up, 3 thumbs down. Keep them coming. Yeah, Myers, Muck, you're right. Keep them coming. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button down below. If you have anybody that you think would enjoy this, I mean, I know I'm soliciting people at this point, but we do want to get to 500. I want to give you guys a good, solid place where we can have good, solid conversations. Again, Coach Frenchie does a great job, and he's worked really, really hard to get to the subscriber level that he's at, and I kind of like to try and do that here as well for post game stuff. So if you're interested in subscribing, if you enjoy the content, if you're watching live, if you're watching in a replay, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, all that really good stuff. Go follow us on Substack. Go follow us on Blue Sky. Recliner Sports on both of those platforms. Go check us out there. All right, Frankie. Good night. Prodman ranked Goalie 83 or something. It is. I mean, I've said this before, and I'm not going to get into wasting my breath on Corey Pronman. Corey Pronman has figured out that his list will get the most attention if he throws some, horrible ranking at a player from one of the big vocal markets, right? He knows that by ranking, Montreal players and Toronto players lower than they should be, that will mean that his list will get talked about a lot more, right? It'll get talked about on social media. It'll get talked about on the radio. It'll get talked about on the podcast. That is the route for him to get the most attention for his list. The reality is what Corey Pronman does is almost impossible, right? The Montreal Canadiens have a scouting team of 15 plus people. There's more than 15 people who do the scouting for the Canadiens, right? They scout in Europe, they scout in the CHL, they scout in the USA, they scout in Canada, they scout in the NCAA. They have 15 scouts, and then they have a team that manages the scouts, right? And so Corey Pronman is trying to do the work of those 15 people all by himself, right? And not only is he doing it for one team, he's doing it for the entire league. And then on top of that, he's also trying to, to track the players once they make it to the league. So he's not only assessing and evaluating the draft eligible players, he's evaluating the players who have been drafted. So now he's doing the U23 thing. The reality is no human being could do all that, right? The problem is he doesn't, he pretends that he can do all that, and he can't. So the only way he can really, get attention for himself is by manipulating, certain fan bases. And, he does it well, and he gets the attention that he gets. And if you read his stuff, I mean, it's just regurgitation of the same thing, right? He's a smart guy. He's got to be a smart guy. He's got a database where he develops a scouting report on every player, and he's got a database. And then every 3 or 4 days, he puts out another article that basically cut and pastes those scouting reports into an article or into a list or something like that. But at the end of the day, no one person could possibly provide you with an accurate assessment of the best under 23 players in the entire NHL. There's too much work for one person. You couldn't do it. So rather than gain credibility by providing really, really good analysis and, and instead of saying, I'm going to rank all 140 players under 23, instead of saying, well, here's my list of the top 10 and providing like really, really good, strong analysis, he provides a list of 140 so that every team in the league has some players on there. So every fan base is going to go and look at that list, right? Like even Ottawa, or teams that have a really shitty pipeline are going to go look at his list because his list is so long that their team is actually going to have a player on it, and then he does things like rank Lane Hutson 39th in the NHL under 23, knowing that is just going to blow every Montreal Canadiens fan's mind and get them talking on social media about it, and then BPM Sports is going to talk about it, and TSN 690 is going to talk about it, and every Montreal Canadiens podcast is going to talk about it. So, that's Corey Pronman. That's Corey Pronman. I absolutely like that Suzuki is showing more emotion. I guess he was frustrated by the rebuild mentality and not playing to win stuff that was going on. Frustrated by the rebuild mentality. I don't understand what that means. Why would anybody be frustrated with the rebuild mentality? The rebuild has worked, far greater than anybody could possibly have ever hoped for, Patrick. I don't understand why he would be frustrated with it or anybody would be frustrated. You were right. They are all playing well last year. As many as wanted Armia, Anderson, Gallagher, Dvorak. Yeah, again, you could live with any of them staying, and I think you could live with any of them going. Slav needs a big tap on the back tonight. The equalizer he scored is basically the textbook goal. He's playing much better hockey. He'll continue to improve. Lane, you can tell, is working on a shot. He is. Yes, absolutely. Yes, same with Snake Boisvert, right? Snake Boisvert likes to say things that, it's clickbait. I mean, it's clickbait. It's simple and simple, as simple as that. You're saying things not because you think they're valuable analysis. You're saying things because it's going to catch people's attention. All right, Entertap. Thank you, man. Have a great one. We will see you next time. What are my thoughts on the Miller Canucks situation? I don't know enough about it, Muck. I know that JT Miller has a reputation. I know that Pedersen has a bit of a reputation. It does seem like those two guys would probably not have compatible personalities, but at the end of the day, there's going to be guys on a hockey team that don't get along with each other. So I don't know where this is going to go, but the idea that that things are so bad between two guys that one of them has to go seems, especially when they're your two best, when they're Vancouver's, not their two best players, but two of their best players. So. Yeah. Any other sports I'm looking at closely? Not really anymore. P. Lewis. I'm spending a lot of time with hockey now, with the Canadiens especially. So I don't really. My football team stinks, so I'm not really following them at all. Baseball is probably the next one. I like watching baseball, but again, I find baseball kind of frustrating to watch nowadays. It seems to be the same teams are getting all the players, and it's not like the old days when I used to watch the Expos. I just can't get into it the same way. I go to almost every game of the London Knights. Okay. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's impossible. It's an impossible task. Even if it was your full-time job, Andre, right? And it is for him, right? I mean, that's what he does. That's what he does for a living. Is this? But again, even if it was your full-time job, it would be impossible to do. Yeah, I think that I agree with you that he's getting. I don't know if he's getting more emotional. I think one of the great things about Nick Suzuki is that he's very even-keeled, but he is showing a little bit more emotion on the ice, and I get that he does love living, but I don't know how that is connected to the rebuild. No, but I think that's what I don't agree with you, Patrick. I think that Nick Suzuki is fully aware of the rebuild and what the plan is. Right, the communication is one of the key parts of a rebuild. You need to keep your players apprised as to what's going on, what you expect from them, and what's going on with the organization and what's going on with the plan. So to suggest that Suzuki is frustrated with the rebuild, yeah, obviously he's frustrated with losing. Everybody's frustrated with losing. But again, I think that Nick Suzuki is well aware that losing is going to be a part of it, right? If rebuilding didn't involve losing, every team would do it, right? If rebuilding didn't hurt and didn't suck and didn't stink, I think that every team would do it all the time. And you're right. They do get more excited now, and they probably enjoy things better now because they are winning, right? Before, I think part of the communication had to be with the team is okay, guys, don't get down now, right? I know it sucks. We just lost 9-2 to the Penguins, but we're working on things and we're getting better, and eventually it's going to pay off, right? These lessons that we're learning right now are going to pay off down the road. They don't have to do that anymore, right? Because the guys are coming off the ice and they're happy and they're excited and they're winning and whatever. But there's going to come a time where there's going to be a bit of a step backwards, and they need to be prepared to deal with that. And so, the communication is the key. Not letting them get too high and then not letting them get too low, right? We hear that all the time. So I think that's about it, guys. I even think management is. I don't agree with you, Patrick. I don't agree with that. I think that what happened in the last 1 or 2 months was perfectly expected. It's exactly what was expected. They expected to struggle. They knew that part of the rebuild that they would struggle, that they would fail, that they would play badly, that they would lose. Right? It's like I said the other night. If you're surprised that the Montreal Canadiens are playing the way they're playing right now, you haven't been paying attention, because they've been telling us for months now this is what's coming. Right? They've been telling us that we're working on things. Right? Marty St. Louis, every press conference, we're teaching them winning habits. We're teaching them how to win. We're learning this. We're learning that. We're working on this. This is what's coming. This is what they've been telling us for 2.5 years now. Right? So if you were frustrated by the way they played in the last month and a half, I get it. Watching them lose isn't enjoyable. But if you're frustrated by it and expected them to be different than that, then you're not paying attention. You're not paying attention to what this team is doing, and you're not paying attention to what the management and the coaches and the players are telling you. If it sucked when they lose 9-2 to Pittsburgh. It sucks when they lost 8-3 to the Seattle Kraken. It sucked when they lost 6-1 or whatever it was to the Rangers. Those games, they sucked and they looked terrible. But if you were listening and paying attention to what was being told to you, you knew that this was part of the development plan. And that, there would be steps backwards before there were steps forward. Right? And the Patrick Laine injury in the offseason didn't help. And, David Reinbacher going down in the preseason didn't help. All of this stuff didn't help. But at the end of the day, this is exactly what they've been telling us is going to happen. And it's happening. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Muck, right? So it's all about, like, there's more players coming along. Like, the draft pool or the prospect pool is still strong. So in addition to, developing and building towards where they are now, it's only going to continue. So anyways, guys, I think I got to cut things off there. If you're still here, I apologize. I am going to cut things off. We will do a show on Tuesday after the game against the Lightning. But we're on for we're well over 2 hours now. So I got to shut things down. It's 1:30 in the morning. It's well past my bedtime. It is Monday morning tomorrow, so it's a school day tomorrow. So please, if you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching live, thank you very much for coming. I really do enjoy you guys coming by and having a conversation. I think it's a really fun time. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Hit the subscribe button. If you're watching in a replay, I get it. You can't always come by after the game. It is 1:30 in the morning, 12:30 Eastern, or whatever other time it would be wherever else you are. I get that it's not easy to always do that. And I do appreciate that you do watch it in a replay, whether you watch the whole show or part of it. But please do hit that subscribe button. If you are enjoying the content, hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the notification bell. The sooner we can get to 500 subscribers, the more we can start doing some of the fun stuff that allows us to do here on YouTube. So again, guys, I really appreciate it. I'm not going to go back through all of the comments to thank everybody who's here. Oui, je m'appelle Devin André. C'est pas Denis, mais vous pouvez me donner ce nom si vous voulez. Je vais répondre à Denis. C'est correct. It's Devin with an I, actually, Muck, D-E-V-I-N. But that's okay, too. It says right there. How do I do this? No, right there. Devin. Anyways, I do appreciate you guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. I certainly did. Thumbs up. We got 22. Obviously, not 50 like we like to get. But I do appreciate Montreal Canadiens 5-4 victory over the New York Rangers. Patrick Laine scores his 11th of the season, I believe, in the overtime. It was his 12th of the season in overtime. To give the Canadiens the win, they bounced back from the 7-3 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs last night. So it was a good game for the Canadiens. It was a good response, a good rebound for Montreal. Things continue to move in the right direction. And all is well in Habs land. So have a good night, everybody. Have a good sleep. If you're not going to bed, enjoy the rest of your night. We will see you next time, and I hope you had a great time. I did. Peace out.
To Hoffman, Monahan parked in front. Docks to Caulfield, fires, scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark.